welcome to Past Lives Matter, the YouTube series where we explore our past lives and how they impact our present day experiences. I'm your host, Trina, and in each episode, I connect with guests and talk about the dynamics they wish to explore, their beliefs around past lives, and any estimations they have about what may come up. From there, we jump right into the reading with gifted clairvoyant psychic medium V. V has the uncanny ability to not only see our past lives and describe them in great detail, but she can also tell us the soul lessons we intended to learn and any other messages from our guides and angels. By way of the past life reading, we uncover fascinating truths and revelations about the interconnectedness of all of our souls. After the reading, I chat with our guests to get their immediate reactions and feelings, and then a few days later, I follow up with them and we talk about what came up, how the reading impacted their beliefs, perspectives, and things that they're going through in their present life. Let's get into it. Our first guest is Courtney. Courtney was interested in exploring the dynamics between her present-day partner and her present-day mother. She had some inclinations about there potentially being some karmic debt with regards to her and her partner. In her application to be on the series, she talked about being really into Greek mythology. She has a Medusa tattoo. She was interested in exploring the dynamics between her present-day partner and her mother. Before the reading, I chatted with her a bit about what her expectations were, what her beliefs were around past lives, and what she thought would come up. Let's take a listen. If you don't mind, if you could take a quick minute to just kind of tell me about yourself, like what you're hoping to gain from the reading and all that good stuff.
Yeah, of course. So I would say I started like a spiritual journey probably like 3 years ago. And I've been kind of like off and on where like you learn certain things that like trigger something and then you learn something else and it triggers something else. And it's like a whole windfall of different things happening. And I've actually lost contact with my father, my mother, and both my sisters. It's mutual, but on certain sides it's not. It just depends. I mean, because my mom, she used to be the kind of person who she talked very pleasant to your face, but she said the worst things behind your back. And I feel like I'm connected to her in other lives because the relationship we have makes no sense for where we came from, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm really intrigued in learning more about that. I also want to know, like, because my current partner, we've been together probably 2.5 years and like I love him and stuff, but like it's not the same feeling that I've had with other like romantic partners, but there's no explanation for it. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of connection in a past life as well.
I've had so many readings and I'm so excited about this because in all the readings, it is like you said, it kind of helps me understand the dynamics between different people in my life. And then it also helped me understand myself better. So yeah, I'm super excited and I'm so grateful to you for being open to this. Have you ever had any kind of past life reading or anything in the past?
No, but I'm really excited because I've been wanting to do it for like the past year at least, but I haven't ever got the courage up to do it. So
do you have any guesses? Like what the dynamic may be between your mom and like yourself or, you know, your boyfriend and yourself?
So I'm really unsure about my mom because I'm not sure if like, I don't know. I can't even guess where it is, but I feel like my current partner, I know that I have some karma because I've looked into like different charts and stuff. I have some karma from where I've like cheated or been unfaithful in a previous life. And I'm wondering if that is why. So I have that weird feeling towards him because I did it to him possibly before. Yeah. That's my guess, but I don't know.
I was really excited for Courtney because with these readings, you never know what's going to come up. That whatever is going to come up is going to be perfectly aligned for what you need to hear. Sometimes you don't get what you're asking for. Sometimes you get what you need. And nobody knows what you need more than your guides and angels. We had some technical difficulties when we started the reading with V, but let's get into that.
Okay, nice to meet you. Sorry to come in like this. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Not bad. A little nervous, but excited and nervous. So
understandable. Seriously, it's understandable. So what we're going to do here, we are going to go over past lives. And and usually how this works for me is anything that pops up that is relevant towards your current life right here in the now with the people that are involved. If you are wanting to know if there's certain people involved, let me know and I can look into it. So Spirit will bring up the most relevant things. And I also like to share the soul lessons. Most importantly, more than anything is the soul lessons because soul lessons can follow us throughout lifetime. I'm going to put the little spotlight on you real quick. Is there anyone or anything that you are curious about past life wise?
Yes. So I'm curious about someone named, do you want to know relationship to me?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
So he's my current spouse. And then I'm also curious about, but she's my mother.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start. All right, I'm going to start with him first. Okay. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take you into the scene. I'm going to start with everything that I'm seeing detailed wise and everything. So I'm going to start with already what I'm seeing right now. This is quite interesting. So the country that I'm seeing is Greece. And what's interesting about all this is that in that lifetime, he was a painter. He was a male in that life. By the way, I just want to put a disclaimer. Certain lifetimes we can be different genders. Just want to throw that out there. But in this life, in the Greece life I'm looking at, he was actually a man and you're a woman just like how you are now. You, on the other hand, you had a pretty rough life. I'm going to just have to, and just anything can be revealed in this. So I just want to just disclaimer, just because I may bring up certain things doesn't mean it really has anything to do with who you are now. But anyway, I say this because in that lifetime, you were basically born into prostitution. Your mother in that lifetime, she was already a prostitute and you were like born into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Your whole entire family was broke. You were and I'm going to talk about how you met. You were obviously on the street. That's all you knew. You were hustle. Your whole life was about hustle. There was no time for fun. He was just a normal guy painting, a simple man. He was a very simple kind of guy. He really was. There was one big issue with him in that life. He had horrible communication skills. Horrible. He was a mute. He does not want to talk about anything. And you were very chatty. You know how they say opposites attract, right? So you thought he was just going to be a regular client. But he wanted, as artists, as the archetype, right? So deep, doesn't care about the sex. So that's basically what he instead of using your services for sex, he actually got to know you. And he ended up falling in love rather quickly. He asked you to marry him within a month. It was a whirlwind, like literally so quick. And so he was kind of a lonely dude though. Before he met you, he didn't really have much going on for him except painting. He didn't make a lot of money. So he just literally was one of those guys who just enjoyed being, the passion, the actual creative, using his hands. He was very handsy, very hands-on with everything. Now, what's beautiful about this is that you were able, because he had a safe energy for you, he provided a lot of safety that you didn't have. Because remember, your whole life was, we all got to fight for money. We all got to hustle. No one sleeps. We got to keep working. We're working. And so he provided you a safety net of like, wow, I don't have to struggle and fight as much, and I can you could really rest in his energy. And that was really beautiful about y'all's relationship, was that he provided a sense of safety. And that was huge in that lifetime, that you for the first time felt like, oh, I can breathe. I can rely on somebody. So there's a big foundational level of deep trust between you, and you guys ended up having 2 kids. First one was a girl, and then a boy. And both of you guys ended up moving from Greece. You guys migrated. And so you guys moved to where he was from, which I want to say it's like Eastern Europe. And it was a pretty cool life. You, on the other hand, what's interesting? You kind of got bored with that life. He ended up developing a kind of depression later in life. This is not the greatest anymore, because now you had to really look out for him. And it was hard for him. He was already quiet. Like I said, he's horrible with communicating these things. So it's like you really had to go above and beyond just to know that like, hey, is something okay? I see you look depressed. Like you had to always be the one to initiate with him. And that upset you a little bit in that life. And it was still a beautiful life. There wasn't major issues. It was a lot of things was not wanting to look that deep within as far as his own emotions, his own stuff, and him not being a great communicator, and putting that all on you to be the communicator and to be the mouthpiece, if that makes sense. I would say that was really hard on you when he wouldn't communicate, because it was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? You know what I mean? And it's just, I think it'd be hard on anyone. I want to talk about the soul lesson in it though. You were sent to him kind of to open him up, because he was kind of a closed off kind of dude, in his own head all the time, quiet, which is cool. People can have, quiet personalities, but you were the complete opposite. So you opened him up a bit. So you were sent there to open himself up, to become more confident, because he wasn't making money off of his art, even though he was really great at it. And it's just the fact that he just didn't have that like energy, and you had that. So you had something he didn't. And he was there to teach you about finding loyalty and safety, even in the weirdest of scenarios, literally. And it's about that, someone can still accept you and still love you despite the flaws you may think you have, and that someone can be here for the long haul and not just be about bullshit, but actually want to take care of you. And he had that. So for the first time in many lifetimes, that was one of the lifetimes that you really felt that you were being accepted, and that you felt that you were being like, oh wow, I can be loved despite not having money, despite my upbringing, despite all of my flaws, and I can be a little bit, defensive in this, and he's still there. And that was one of the soul lessons that you were here to learn and that he was also here to learn. He had to open up, and it taught you that you could still be loved and you could still be cared for. Whether it doesn't matter what mistakes you made, doesn't matter what you do for a living, there's still someone out there who can always love and accept you. And that leads me to the biggest, another random thing. It has nothing to do with past life, but I want to just mention this as a random message from Spirit, which is self-acceptance is a huge thing in this current lifetime for you, which I'm sure you've realized.
Yes.
And so that actually and this is still going on, and where certain interactions with people and family members and just a lot of things in this life has triggered you you notice how a lot of your life, they said your upbringing taught you to look outside about caring about the appearance of how things look. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And so what's happening is this lifetime is breaking down all that barriers. You were born into a family who cared about the image of everything. Like, hey, don't do that. You were born into that for a reason, for you to break that cycle and using that Greek past life of, knowing that, wait a minute, as long as I accept myself, because there's one positive thing about that Greek life, which is, although, yeah, you had the job that you had, but you just saw it as a job. Like you still accepted yourself, but you still knew the world wouldn't accept you, but you kind of accepted you, but you just wrote off ever meeting a dude to take you seriously in that life. But when you found it, you're like, oh shit, great. And so the common denominator here is that when you accept yourself, you end up attracting and getting so many people that accept you. What's interesting is, and this is why I want to go into another past life, I do see this glimpse of you guys are siblings now, which this is something I've noticed in different past life readings. Just so I want to let you know this, that oftentimes a lot of our romantic partners weirdly ended up being a sibling in a past life. And if you think about our own relationships with our siblings, it kind of makes sense because it's like a weird close relationship.
Right.
But it's funny how I've noticed this. It's a pattern sometimes with people that your sibling, you end up having some strong, connection in another life romantically. So you guys were siblings and you both were brothers. You were the older brother. He was the younger brother. And what's interesting about this is that, oh, wow, this is so cool. This was here in America, by the way. So this was America. This is not Greece. This is here in America. And it's like, it shows me like, I see nothing but the West, like cattle, like farms. I want to say they said it's like North Dakota. It's like in that area. You were the oldest, so you had a lot of responsibility on you. He was the younger brother. He was a couple years younger. He wasn't that much younger, but the point is you were very responsible because it was just you two. You guys were the only siblings. So of course, you know how the parents put the pressure on the oldest. You were the kind of person, you were very outgoing, and so was he. You guys clashed a lot. There was a lot of arguing because both of you wanted to be right. Both of you had control issues. So that came up as a very big thing. You and Jared both equally shared a lot of control issues. And so I say this because there is and this is what Spirit's saying. They said, because you guys butt heads a lot, there was moments in that lifetime where you guys stopped talking for years. Like the stubbornness, both of you had the equal amount of stubbornness that one of you couldn't, you know what they say? Someone has to compromise to like, you know when someone like you get an argument with someone, it's like, God, who's going to be the bigger person? Both of you equally did not want to be the bigger person. So that's why it was like stubborn years worth of not talking to each other, because both of you equally had the same fire of like, I'm not being the one. And so both of you were very much like macho, you know what I mean? Like that heavy masculine energy, like, hey, this is what it is and I ain't going for shit. Both of you had that energy. And the reason why you guys clashed a lot is that for you specifically, you had a very, and I mean a very, very beautiful outlook on life where it's like, I'm going to do what I want, when I want, that's what it is. And no one's going to stop me. And you had a very fiery passion about you. And you were so ambitious. By the way, you really loved gardening. Even though you were a man, you did. But your biggest love was horses. Horses stand out very strongly with you. There's a big horse symbolism in general with you. I mean, even in this current lifetime, there's something with horses. It's very interesting, actually. So yeah, you loved all that nature stuff. You loved it. Now, his personality, it was very similar to yours, except that he was, and there's one sad thing about y'all's upbringing is that your father in that life was very abusive to both of you. And I think that's why both of you equally might have had a lot of this pent up aggression now thinking about it. I didn't see it before. I just saw the word abusive. So your father-in-law was very abusive to both of you, like very just physically, verbally, just really mean. And so you guys had to deal with a lot of that crap, on top of just trying to, live your life, find what you want to do. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Even though you guys had periods throughout that lifetime of not talking, you guys would always find a way. They say like people find a way back to each other kind of thing, even as siblings. And so this is where it gets really, I guess, there's no other way to put it. Both of you fought over a woman later in life. And that's a lot of this came to fighting over this random woman. And that's another thing, because she was one of those people where, how you have like a local, you guys live in the middle of nowhere. So everyone knows each other. And so, there's only like a few, females of that are suitors or something. It's like those old days kind of vibes. And so both of you were fighting over her. And it was just, and it's funny. She didn't choose any of you. So it was kind of funny how life worked out that way. She didn't even, she chose someone else. So once again, you guys keep fighting for no reason. It keeps repeating itself. And then that's what's interesting is that what Spirit's saying is that it's both of you had these really strong egos, but none of you guys wanted to compromise ever. And for you, Courtney, I would say that you had a very, and I mean like, even though you guys would clash, you still, and by the way, you ended up getting married with some other woman. And even with having your own life and having your own kind of, literally having your own life, having your own everything, you were still preoccupied with it. Didn't even matter. You're like, what's he up to? What's he freaking doing now? It's like you had that kind of energy where you just, how the people say mind your own business, like you just cut it. And so, and was kind of similar to you where, he's also like this, he's very similar, like, yeah, I'm pissed off, but like, what you up to? It's like kind of funny how you guys had that dynamic. Now, how did this life end? Okay. Basically, you went your separate ways. You got married, you moved, you had your own farm. He moved, had his own farm. You both would still come together to hang out. But as the years progressed, you guys just stopped being in contact. And so what Spirit's saying about this lifetime is that what happened and what's the soul lesson in all of this? Why all this anger? Why all these arguments? Why was the whole lifetime of just back and forth and ego? And that's that, right? Well, a part of it was Spirit shows me an image of a mirror. Both of you mirror each other so freaking much, even in this life, honestly. Like, I feel like this is still going on in a weird way. Obviously not as intense or as brothers, obviously, but there's other instances where both of your like egos could clash a lot, or just like he has a certain vision of like how he wants things. Even right now to this day, he has a certain vision, and he's very serious about like, I said what I said. I told you what I said. It's like, he's basically one of those people who says like, I apologize after I do the thing. You ever heard that phrase?
Yes. And that's him.
Yeah, I could see that. So it's like, yeah. I'm cracking up because he had that energy in that lifetime and he's still, as I can still feel it to this day, he's still carrying around this energy of, like, sorry after the fact, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You guys know how I am. And he still has that energy still going on to this day. And not only that, but you're saying a bigger picture, because you guys were mirroring each other in that lifetime. He mirrored your wounds. You mirrored his. And the common denominator was the abuse you both felt from your father in that life. And you both didn't have any healthy coping mechanism to how to deal with that. So all it was lashing out at one another instead of confronting the elephant in the room, if that makes sense, where you both tiptoe around the actual problem. And you will argue and I don't know what to do and I don't know. And you guys will go in circles instead of just addressing the most simplistic elephant in the room about anything that's happening. And I say this because if you guys would have just nipped it in the bud, this is what Spirit's saying. In that lifetime, they said it could have been easily resolved. If y'all would have just said, you know what, we're just really upset. None of y'all want to talk about the pain from your father. So you guys tiptoed around the awkward pain and you guys would just show it through aggression towards each other instead of towards the actual person, which was your dad. You guys still weirdly had a lot of respect for him despite all the bullshit he gave to you guys. That's what was interesting too. And Spirit says that's a lesson for you as well in this lifetime, where you don't owe anything or anyone loyalty. Once, if they said you don't owe anyone, that's something that's earned. And if you've been hurt or bruised by anyone in this life, you don't owe them anything unless you want to, obviously. But they're also saying that in a general sense, and they want to bring up something in this current lifetime. And I'm going to move real quick to your mom. I didn't forget. Real quick. In this lifetime, there is a message which is about going back to the mirrors and the arguments and the random like going in circles instead of confronting the real thing. They said a little bit of that is still lingering, where obviously you guys aren't brothers or aggressive, but I do still see a little bit of that pattern still happening, where you guys may have a random petty thing and it's like, well, this was for nothing. This is so stupid. You ever feel that way? Like, this is so stupid.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's actually one of the reasons. It's like, that's why you always feel like, this is so dumb. Why why are we? And that comes from that prior lifetime. That prior lifetime likes to remind you that this is not like, that's why that lifetime comes through and gets you out of that anger. When you start to get, you notice how you get wrapped up and you're like, wait a minute, why am I even going like, this is so dumb. That is your past life seeping through. When you get that feeling about this is so dumb, why am I doing this? It's coming from that specific past life of arguing for no reason. And that's why you get those revelations. And so it's a really interesting journey. I know it's only like 2 lifetimes, by the way. You and probably, I would say this could be there's probably at least more about 7 more lifetimes you probably spent together. It's you guys, obviously, you know, I know that when you guys, I mean, I don't know, but I kind of psychic know. When you guys first met, it was like a weird, like, woohoo, like, I like you. And I just, you know, it was a sense of knowing, like, I feel, I just feel comfy. And that comfortability came from all of these lifetimes, you know, and you know, it's interesting. There's one more comment about this current lifetime, which is Stuart says that he said he needs to learn more patience. Yeah. That's just something random, but they just want to share that.
I thought it was interesting how she threw in that little note about him needing to be more patient. I've often gotten readings from her and she's thrown in little tidbits of, you know, present day commentary from spirit, which is super cool because it just makes you feel validated. Whatever you're going through, like you're talking to somebody that's a complete stranger who can completely feel into your life in a way that causes internal shifts. Let's move on to the reading with her mom.
Now, I want to move on to your mother. This is a way different energy than way different. Being in her energy is like I'm being spun around like this, like a tornado in your mother's energy. What a fun spirit though. Okay, it looks like England. Yes, this is England. So we're in England now, and she's performing. She's a performer. It kind of makes sense. She's kind of dramatic, you know. Even now, in this life, she's kind of dramatic. So I'm yes, because I can see glimpses of her right here now. But I can see the glimpse. So I'm like, it kind of mirrors it. It's kind of over dramatic. It's really picture speed. So she was literally on a stage. I hear her singing, and it kind of sounds like opera. Yeah, it sounds like opera. Yeah. So she was really like doing the opera thing. And how did you play a role in that? Most importantly. You were her friend / assistant. You started out as a friend, but then she made you an assistant as time went on because of her getting more notoriety in the opera stuff. And so what's interesting about all this is that you guys would travel to different cities throughout Europe. That's how well known she was. And you enjoyed it, but you felt, but at the same time, you lost the friendship aspect because you got lost in the business aspect, the money aspect, the, you know, everything else aspect. And so because of that, that is why, and this is one I'm going to look even deeper to this lifetime. Your mom in that life, like I said, she had notoriety. She had everything she could possibly want. But she really struggled with alcohol. And so there was a big, it was like she was trying to manage everything at once, you know, and you were also trying to manage her too. You were like, it's like you were her friend, but you're also like assistant / caretaker. It's like you were everything because she just couldn't get, you know, she was really lost in that life and she was drinking, you know, I understand it's a lot of parties, right? You know, so you get a lot of different, you know, partying, drugs, drinks, you know, there's a lot of things going on. And so you ended up being more of a caretaker. And you were always worried about like, okay, is she going to be okay to make it to the show? Like your life became her life, if that makes sense. You didn't have much. I mean, you got paid great though. So while you got paid, the sad part is you couldn't do much with it because your whole life was centered around her schedule. So even though you were getting paid handsomely, you couldn't spend it really because you were consumed with all of her scheduling. And so that life, Spirit says, it mirrors, they said lack of boundaries. There was none. You guys merged and blended into like one energy of like, I'm just here to serve you and that's it. Like you did not, it's like you almost sacrificed your whole entire like lifetime just to be there for her. And really that takes a really courageous and strong soul to sign up for that. And technically you did. Basically, I'm here to tell you, you literally signed up for that life to literally keep an eye out on your mom.
Oh shit. Wait, quick little thing here. I forgot this is YouTube. So I have to ask, if you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel.
which, like I said, is a big testament to your energy, because that's not easy. And it's a lot for one person to sacrifice their own well-being and everything just to be there for someone else. And it's interesting because your guides are saying that there's a little bit of that sacrifice. You ever find yourself in this current life? I don't want to say like you being worried about mom. Do you ever find yourself a little bit worried about her, or just like overly not, or was she ever needing a lot of your energy in this life or a lot of your time?
Yeah, especially when I was younger, I used to feel like she was always draining me, and I always felt like her caretaker, and it never made sense because I'm like, I thought it was more of from her emotional standpoint, because she always had like some signs, and she would always threaten to like kill herself if none of us paid attention to her. And it was crazy for a long time, but I actually cut her off in this lifetime, and I haven't.
And, I think that was something you really had to do, and I really do. I really believe that, because that was a huge undertaking you did in that life. So it totally made, and think about it. You mentioned how with her, like, oh, no one's paying attention to me. And remember how she had all the attention in that life. Think about it. Imagine a soul going from everyone adoring you to like just being a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. Because she was, in this lifetime, she was like a tech support. She did like computer help stuff. So, yeah.
So very background stuff,
Oh, yeah.
And so
Definitely
it totally
not
makes
in
sense.
your face.
Yes. And so I think it was like you being able to cut her off a couple of years ago was your soul's way of saying like, we've completed this contract. We've completed these soul lessons. I love you and I wish you well. And,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it was such a big deal, for you to do it. And it's like, I know you were thinking about it way longer before 3 years ago, I know you were. And I know it takes a lot of courage, and, it's a lot of it's emotional thing, and it's like, then you got to, and then some people, you have to deal with like feeling guilted or weird guilt, you know what I mean? Weird energies, people, oh, why aren't you talking to your mom? And so I think that you did the best you can given all the circumstances. And most importantly, I think that's why Spirit wanted to bring up that life specifically. What are the odds that you devoted all of your life and now you're like, no, I can't do it. And you have every right to say that, because your soul literally gave up a whole lifetime just to look out for her. So if that's not a consolation to not feel bad about cutting her off just 3 years ago, let this be your God's way of giving you that reassurance that you really made the right choice, and that, there's nothing to feel bad about. You already devoted an entire life, literally, and your childhood as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you've done a lot already. And that's why they wanted to just bring that up about that, because it was a huge, huge turning point in your soul. Because, our soul goes through these, these lifetimes, right? And that was a huge one, because you're learning about like, oh my gosh, I have to balance out my energy and choose me. And if someone, it's one of those hardest things because it's family, and I think that the fact that you're able to do that, it really shows how courageous of a soul you've always been. But I can see glimpses of your life right now, and I see like you're an actually courageous person in a general sense. I mean, I feel like you're kind of like, hey, it's like when people are like, I get to say this, but this is kind of sounds funny, but like, people can get weirded out by certain things. I could see you say, oh, who cares? It's just this.
Yeah.
I could see like gross things that people wouldn't want to hear. You're like, oh, who cares? I could see you doing these things right in this lifetime. It's really great. Yeah, seriously. And so so you still have that courage, you still have that fearlessness, and I mean, as much as anxieties you may have even in this lifetime, the focus here is to focus more on the courage and not the anxiety, that you have way more courage, way more love within yourself, your heart, and for those around you, more than you ever believe and tell yourself. You always think like, oh, I'm going through all this. You're fine. And that's all the Spirit really wants to say today is you're good. I'm going to see if there's any other lifetime with your mom that really is relevant or stands out. Nah, that's pretty much it. That's the one that really, which makes the most sense now thinking about it. Yeah, that's the only one that really, they said is the most relevant to this current life. The other ones are not really that relevant to this exact life. So yeah, this was actually really great. I really enjoyed connecting with you and your spirit and your lifetimes. And you just have such a wonderful energy. You do.
Thank you so much. This was super helpful. And if you had more time, I would tell you all of the things that made sense in this. But
I know, I really appreciate that. Seriously, I really do. It's I'm so happy to be here. Seriously, this is such a beautiful thing. I'm just really grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that I'm grateful that some of this stuff makes sense to you. I'm grateful that's you. Yes. And I do got to get off here soon, but I just want to say thank you so much, Trina. Thank you, obviously.
We appreciate
thank you for this space.
Absolutely. All right, so you can tell me all the ways all that makes sense.
I will. Starting with, what cracked me up the first life she mentioned wasn't Greece, because I said in my thing, even I was always drawn to like Greece and like Greek mythology and stuff. And the first relationship made sense to to me because he, in this lifetime, in the relationship, is more communicative. And he tells me that I don't communicate with him. And I've tried to communicate with you. Now I just have such a hard time because you don't listen. And like, I did in the beginning, but I never really understood the deep level of that. Because if I had communicated a whole lifetime with him and he always was shut off or like withdrawn compared to me, that makes more sense to me now. We went to the lifetime where we're brothers, and we've always talked about like having a homestead and like gardening and all that stuff in this lifetime, which cracked me up because she said that I had a huge thing with gardening in that life. So we talked about getting a homestead and like growing a garden and all that stuff. I find it funny that she's super connected to the idea of horses because I've been told multiple times that I'm like a horse girl. But in this life, I've never been around horses, but everyone senses, they're like, oh, you have that energy of like a horse girl. And I'm like, I don't know where that comes from. But I do hold a lot of space for like canines and like animals themselves in this life too. So, and to go back to the Greek life one, she talked about how he gave me like the sense of like security and like family and stuff. And since I've cut off my family from this life for the most part, his family has opened up and like they welcome me in like part of their family, which makes a ton of sense. And then with mom, she always like this life, like it's not that she didn't have love for me. Because I know she did, but she, never wanted kids in this life. And she put that towards us where it always felt like we weren't either enough or it was not what she expected. I'm not really sure. But she divorced and remarried 4 times within this life because she's always looking for something outside of herself and never really found anything. And like I said before, she'd always like try to threaten us like, oh, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to hurt myself if you guys don't stop me. Like, if you don't give me this attention that I'm requesting, I'm going to do something to myself. Eventually, which is so sad, after so many times of her saying it, me and my older sister kind of stopped believing her and stopped, like, feeding into it. But she's always had a hold on my younger sister with that. So she's kept that she might still do that. I'm not really sure. Those were the, like, key points from that. I was like, she really hit on quite a few things that make sense. And it's interesting in the life with Jared in Greece, how she touched upon like, I didn't cheat, but I felt bored in the relationship and how it felt like something completely different from the life I'd had previous or like before I met him. And that feeling comes up in our relationship quite often now, even. We butt heads over like the smallest things. And like, there's times where like we don't see eye to eye and it doesn't really make sense why. Like, it feels like there's something there where I didn't trust him or I expected something different maybe. So then I always find myself trying to find like outside validation from this. But I always know that you have to find it internally. Like, you're never going to feel happy in that relationship until you can fix how you feel or like how you are in the relationship, I guess, which makes sense about the self-acceptance too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very helpful. It got a little emotional, but I held it together. And it was very enlightening. Where like, I don't think I knew exactly what I wanted from it, but she gave me the things that I needed. So, yes.
Mom, hearing about the past life dynamics between her and her mom had me near tears. That was difficult to hear about. And it was difficult because it kind of mirrored the dynamics between my mom and myself in this life. There have been periods in this life where I have had to distance myself from her to protect my own energy. And it's not easy having to set boundaries with somebody that, in theory, would be like your closest confidant. Like, with my kids, I have a really close relationship with my kids, and I can't imagine my kids needing to take a break from me. At the end of the day, it's all done in love and it's all done in growth. And that's exactly what comes of it. As cool as past life readings can be, and as cool as it can be to hear about all these different dynamics and roles that we've played and experiences that we've had, at the end of the day, what matters is the lessons. And for Courtney, the lesson was self-acceptance. I followed up with her a few days after the reading, and this is what she had to say. So how are you feeling post-reading?
Good. I realized how big of a thing like self-acceptance is in my life that I didn't understand before. Growing up with my mom, who she was always very much like the outside matters and like what you appear to the world is how you receive your worthiness. Like, you aren't worth anything if you're doing like working at McDonald's or like whatever. Your worth was always connected to your career and like how much you could provide for someone else. I honestly didn't even like realize that is probably why in like whatever scenario, like when we pick this reality, like what we come into, that's probably why I chose to be the way I did. Because in a previous life, that was the life that I probably felt the most accepted. Like, as far as my self-acceptance went, I knew that, like, if someone could love me through a job where I, like, prostituted out or whatever, and I was confident in it, and he was comfortable with that sort of thing, that I probably picked that for a reason, and I didn't even understand that. Like, you never really understand how much love you learn from parents, because growing up, like, yeah, our family, like, hugged when we said goodbye or whatever. Like, we had, like, the, like, formal, like, appearance of love. That's what it was, because it was always at, like, gatherings and stuff where you, like, hug everyone and pretend to be, like, the happy family. But, like, it wasn't, like, a loving household. So when I learned how to love people, I know I didn't learn how to do it right. So I think a lot of it came from how you can make the relationship appear, and like the appearance always outranked how you felt. So I think I don't even know how to like describe some of it. Like, I think growing up, my idea of love was always related, at least in like a romantic situation. My idea of love was always related to like touch and sex and stuff like that. Like, that was how you showed people, because that's what you were worth. That's what you provided. And like love in a friend and like family and stuff like that sort of relationship, it was always, what can you buy, or how can you be useful to somebody, instead of like, you are already useful, like you are already worthy. And I also think that's probably a lot of why I chose as my partner in this life, because he is the type of person, like, we could not be making that much money, whatever, and like, we'll always figure it out. There's never, you have to be doing something for me to love you this way. So yeah, I mean, it's weird to think about, because like there's certain things that you think that you want in life, but there was probably a version of me when we decided to come to this life again that realized that this is the stuff we have to work on now.
Did you share your readings with anyone?
I shared a little bit with my partner, but not a lot, because he's not like the let's talk about this kind of guy.
Yeah.
So,
So what was his reaction to what you did share with him?
he thought it was cool, but he's still trying, because I've shared a little bit about like my awakening and spiritual journey, and like he likes the idea of it, but I don't think he's fully like on board with how much of it is real.
Yeah,
which
I
is
get
fine.
that.
Like, he'll either come around or he won't, but like one day he might. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like for some people it's our path to be awakened, and for others it's
Yeah.
not, and it's okay, you know. And I also feel like we don't necessarily need our partner to have the same beliefs as us. We just need them to respect our beliefs, you know,
Exactly.
and not be, you know, unkind about it or anything like
Right.
that. So that's really good that he's at least open enough to receive the information, even though he's not, you know, necessarily signing on the dotted line, you know,
Yes.
that's what his beliefs are. So
I think the biggest part of it is you just don't want to feel like the crazy person, you know, like, because there's certain people you tell things to and they're like, you actually believe that, or you like you're one of those people who like think that this can happen. I think that anything can happen. I think that I signed up to do certain things before I even came here, and I think that we create the reality and all that other stuff that we're in. But a lot of people don't buy in that, because if they bought into that, then they would have to accept the fact that they created the life that they have.
that part.
Yes,
Yes, and a
which is
lot of people, that terrifies a lot of people. Yeah.
it does. It really does. And like, I mean, I was one of them, because I thought for a long time that it's like, how could I ever choose to do this? Because that's the thing. That's the whole game of it. Like, if we didn't choose something hard or different, what are we going to learn?
Exactly.
Like, what's the point of it at that? So, yeah, I think it was the worthiness, obviously. And just the fact that I don't need to connect my, like, monetary value or my career or whatever to who I am. Because I am Courtney, separate from everything else. And then, yeah, sure, I'm trying to become a massage therapist, or I was a correctional officer, I walk dogs, this and that. I'm not one single thing, but none of those are my essence.
That makes me want to cry, because that is like, that what you just said is the thing that I hope most people walk away from this experience feeling, that we are no thing. We are the embodiment of unconditional love, and we come here to have a wide range of varied experiences. So that makes me so happy that
Yes.
you know, feel that, because it is scary when you're first introduced the idea that, you know, you have control over your life. But once you take control of that, then the magic starts. Now you
Yes.
start making stuff you like, you know? And I think if you can get over that, you know, fear or self-judgment for looking at your life the way that it is, if it's not exactly how you'd want it, you know, you can step into creating something new. So I think that's huge. Yeah.
And I feel like it gives you this level of, like, almost freedom from the fact that, like, you don't have to look on the outside to change your life. Like, it's never going to be on the outside. It's always what's inside that's going to help you change. So, yeah. And you don't have to, like, fit somebody's, like, checkbox of everything. Like, if you want to do a thing, there's nothing stopping you from moving towards that thing. Yeah.
So a lot of the things that were coming through in your reading actually applied to me as well, which is, I was not expecting that. As I was sitting there and there were certain things that were coming through, I could literally feel my guide on my shoulder tapping me like, this applies to you too, sis.
Yeah.
You know, so I wanted to know if there's been any shifts around the decision that you had to make to distance yourself from your mom. Has the reading had any impact on, you know, your feelings of having to do that in this life?
Before that, anyways. Initially, when I cut my mom off, it was almost out of not necessity and not really anger, really. It was more of, like, that feeling of just, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I have put too much emotion, anger, love, frustration, sadness, whatever, towards you already. I can't do it no more. So there were many years after that where it felt more of like a resentment. In the last year, it's kind of changed a little more of, like, understanding, I guess. And I think the reading has helped almost close it out, where I can actually, like, breathe with it. Like, okay, like, I made the choice for me, and it's probably honestly better for both of us. Like, I am not giving her the energy that I actually need myself. Like, and I honestly, like, on the day to day, if I think of her, even, it's not out of anger or hatred or whatever. It's just, I hope the best for her. And I think the reading actually has made it, in my eyes, it's made me understand why I came to that conclusion that I did. Because when I did it, it made sense, but it felt more of like a place of, like, a negative whatever. But now I know that it never was that. Like, it was just that this was the move that I needed to make for me. So, and it's been a long time coming, I guess.
Literally eons, lifetimes.
Two things, I guess. One, not really necessary for it, I guess, but when I did it, we started talking and stuff, and we got into this, like, argument, and I didn't really think about it until we did this reading. And I told him, because at that point he was like, I don't really think you're wanting to go farther, and I don't really think this is for me. Like, I don't want a serious thing at this point. And I'm like, well, that's really hurtful, because I really felt like you're the one. And when I said it, I was like, I don't really know where that even came from. Like, why I even said that. But like, it felt right in the moment, and like that stuck with him because he even remembers that. He's like, I never understood why you said that. And like, that's probably why we stayed together. And now that I've had the reading, like, I've seen we've been together many of times.
Mm-hmm.
So he might not be the one, but he's someone that is important in my lifetime and learning and like growing myself. Second, if anyone is on the fence on like getting a past life reading or anything like that, like, it is just so helpful in the way that like you can only see from inside like your point of view, and like you're never going to be able to like see outside of yourself, even with like the spirit lessons and like the things that like, you know, like in the back of my head I always knew self-acceptance was a thing that I needed to work on, but seeing the like versions of me that have gone through this and like that have had better levels of like self-acceptance or like worse, or like have fixed other things that I have worked on in this life, and like things that I understand now that I didn't then. Like, it's all very important, and like I'm very happy that I did it, and I would do it again.
Courtney's reflections about our self-worth being tied to how we show up in the world, what we do for a living, what we can do for other people. I feel like that is a really, 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 really heavy perception of our society. And it makes for a lot of us to struggle with self-worth. And one of my goals in creating this series and hopefully exposing people to how dynamic they truly are and how valid everyone's experience is, that we come to an understanding that we are inherently worthy of love. We are love. It doesn't matter what we do for a living. It doesn't matter how many people we've slept with. It doesn't matter what we can provide. I know a huge part of my intentions when I came into this life was to be independent, and I selected the parents who gave me that experience. I do not have the type of parents that you can lean on if my world crumbles. My world crumbles, you know? And it's like that by design. It's no accident. She also touched on pre-birth planning a little bit, so I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. So before we incarnate into Earth, we literally meet into what is kind of like a university in heaven. And in this university, we plan our lives. We meet with the souls that we're going to connect with. We talk about the dynamics of the past lives that we're going to bring forth into our present life and what we hope to learn at the level of the soul. Everyone in your life and every way that they've shown up in your life is part of the deal. It's part of what you agreed on, and it's giving you an opportunity for something. With this information, as you engage with people, ask yourself, what is this person giving me an opportunity to do? Are they giving me an opportunity to love myself? Are they giving me an opportunity to love someone else, to set boundaries, to honor myself, to put myself out there, to step out of my comfort zone, to get over self-loathing or fear or whatever? There's always a lesson in our interactions with others. And I hope that by delving into this past life, present life comparison, some of those parallels can be drawn in your own experience. And armed with that information, your life can feel lighter. If you're interested in the past life reading with Golden V, you can book a reading with her at Golden. If you're interested in being in the Past Lives Matter series, please visit intuitivelytrina.com, click on Past Lives Matter, and fill out the application. If any of this resonates with your life, I'd love to hear it in the comments. If you've had any experiences with past life readings or past life connections, I'd also love to hear about that. If you'd like to support the series, please consider subscribing, sharing, checking out our merchandise, checking out our Patreon. Thanks for watching.